On Friday the 13th, in the year 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the mass arrest of the Knights Templar. The order was swift. The charges were brutal: heresy, blasphemy, treason. But when royal soldiers stormed the Templar strongholds, they found something far more disturbing. The vaults were empty. For nearly 2 centuries, the Templars had controlled an economic network spanning Europe and the Holy Land. They moved gold, protected pilgrim wealth, and financed kings. Chroniclers described their riches as vast beyond measure. Yet overnight, it vanished. No official records explain where the treasure went. Some claim a secret fleet sailed from La Rochelle just days before the arrests. Others believe the wealth was hidden beneath sacred sites or transferred to trusted allies. And some ask an even darker question: was the treasure hidden, or was it stolen by those who destroyed the order? On the night of October 13, 1307, an invisible net closed over France. By dawn, it was too late. Under sealed orders from King Philip IV, royal soldiers moved simultaneously across the kingdom. Monasteries, commanderies, and fortified houses of the Knights Templar were stormed without warning. The arrests were precise, coordinated, and ruthless. Men who had fought in the Crusades, guarded kings, and managed the finances of Europe were dragged from their beds in chains. The official charges were heresy, blasphemy, and corruption. But behind the accusations stood a far simpler truth: the Templars were powerful and deeply inconvenient. For nearly 2 centuries, the Order of the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ had evolved into something unprecedented. They were warrior monks bound by vows of poverty, yet they controlled an international banking network stretching from Paris to Jerusalem. Pilgrims entrusted them with fortunes. Kings borrowed from them. Entire kingdoms depended on their financial systems. And then, in a single night, it all collapsed. When Philip's men broke into the Templar vaults, they expected to seize unimaginable wealth. Chroniclers spoke of gold, silver, sacred relics, and secret documents. But what they found instead was silence. Empty chests. Bare stone floors. No records explaining where the treasure had gone. This was not the chaos of a rushed escape. It was preparation. Witnesses later spoke of unusual movements in the days before the arrests. Wagons leaving commanderies at night. Ships quietly departing from the port of La Rochelle, the Templars' primary naval base. Too many coincidences to ignore. The question emerged immediately, whispered in court corridors and cloisters alike. How does the greatest military financial order in medieval Europe lose everything overnight? And more importantly, who knew it was coming? At first, the king's men believed it was a mistake. Royal officials moved from one Templar stronghold to another, convinced that the true wealth will be found in the next vault, behind the next sealed door. But everywhere they went, the result was the same. Stone chambers once guarded day and night stood stripped bare. Heavy iron-bound chests lay open and hollow. Shelves meant for ledgers and contracts were empty, as if the order had erased itself from history. This was not the absence of wealth in a single place. It was the disappearance of an entire system. The Knights Templar were not careless hoarders of gold. Their fortune was distributed, recorded, accounted for. They managed deposits, loans, and transfers with a precision unmatched in medieval Europe. Such an operation could not simply vanish without planning. And yet, there were no documents explaining where the money had gone. No confessions revealed its fate. No inventory was ever recovered. One location drew particular attention: La Rochelle. As the Templars' principal Atlantic port, La Rochelle housed their fleet and served as a gateway between France, England, and the wider world. Contemporary accounts mention ships leaving the harbour shortly before the arrests, their destinations unrecorded. When royal agents arrived days later, the docks were silent. The fleet was gone. Some historians argue this was coincidence. Others see intent. Because what kind of order, accused of heresy and facing destruction, quietly evacuates its ships before dawn? And how did they know exactly when to do so? Even under torture, Templar prisoners gave no clear answers. Many claimed ignorance. Others insisted the treasure never existed in the form imagined by the crown. But Philip IV did not believe them. He had emptied his own treasury funding wars. He needed the Templars' gold. Instead, he found nothing. And with every empty vault, one unsettling possibility grew harder to ignore. The Templars had not been caught off guard. They had been warned. All roads in the mystery of the Templar treasure lead to the sea. La Rochelle was no ordinary port. It was the Knights Templar's primary naval base on the Atlantic coast, a place few kings could enter without permission. From here, the order maintained ships that carried pilgrims, supplies, and valuables across Europe and beyond. Yet on the eve of their destruction, this port became eerily quiet. According to several medieval sources, a number of Templar ships departed La Rochelle just days before the arrests of October 1307. No cargo lists survived. No destinations were recorded. When royal officers finally arrived to seize the fleet, they found empty docks and abandoned warehouses. The ships were gone, and so was whatever they carried. This disappearance fueled centuries of speculation. One theory claims the fleet sailed north, towards Scotland, a kingdom at odds with the English crown and outside the immediate reach of the Pope. At the time, Scotland was under excommunication, making it a potential refuge for outlawed knights. Legends speak of Templars finding shelter there, preserving their wealth and traditions in secrecy. Another route points south, to Portugal. Unlike France, the Portuguese king refused to persecute the Templars. Instead, he reorganized them under a new name, the Order of Christ. This order later financed the Great Age of Discovery, raising an uncomfortable question: did Templar gold help fund the voyages that reshaped the world? Others believe the ships never left European waters at all. They may have sailed east, towards Cyprus, or vanished into hidden coves where treasure could be unloaded and concealed beyond royal reach. But every theory shares one unsettling detail. The fleet did not flee in panic. It moved with purpose. Someone knew the arrests were coming. Someone had time to prepare. And someone ensured that when the Templars fell, their fortune would not fall with them. The treasure had not vanished. It had changed hands, or changed hiding places. To understand where the Templar treasure may have gone, one question must be asked without illusion. Who gained from their destruction? King Philip IV of France stood at the center of the storm. He was deeply in debt to the very order he chose to destroy. Years of war with England and Flanders had drained the royal treasury. The Templars were not only his creditors, they were a reminder of his dependence. By accusing them of heresy, Philip erased his debts overnight and seized their properties across France. But the wealth he expected never appeared. Instead, much of the confiscated land was transferred to the Knights Hospitaller, another military order loyal to the Church. On paper, this appeared just. In reality, it obscured the trail. Gold, archives, and movable wealth could disappear easily in the chaos of redistribution. Above Philip stood Pope Clement V. Under immense pressure from the French crown, the Pope dissolved the Templar order in 1312. Officially, the Church claimed neutrality. Unofficially, it inherited authority over Templar assets and records. Many documents vanished into Vatican archives, sealed from scrutiny for centuries. To this day, historians debate how much Rome truly knew and how much it chose to hide. Yet not all profit was immediate or obvious. Banks rose in the centuries that followed, adopting financial techniques pioneered by the Templars. Maritime nations surged forward, seemingly fueled by sudden access to capital. Symbols once associated with the order began appearing in unexpected places, carved into stone, hidden in plain sight. This has led to an unsettling suspicion. Perhaps the Templars did not lose their treasure at all. Perhaps it was absorbed, quietly, into the foundations of the modern world. If so, the greatest theft in medieval history was never about gold. It was about control. And the ones who truly benefited ensured that the truth would remain buried. If the Templars did not carry their treasure away by sea, then one possibility remains far more disturbing. They hid it where no king could ever reach. For years, the Order had exclusive access to some of the most sacred and restricted sites in Christendom. None was more controversial than the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. During the early Crusades, the Templars were granted quarters directly atop the ruins of Solomon's Temple. Officially, they were there to protect pilgrims. Unofficially, they excavated beneath the sacred ground. Contemporary records describe tunnels, chambers, and discoveries never fully explained. Some believe the Templars uncovered ancient vaults sealed since biblical times, places ideal for hiding not only gold, but knowledge. When the Order later withdrew from the Holy Land, whatever they found was never returned. Closer to Europe, another name surfaces again and again: Rennes-le-Château. This remote French village became infamous centuries later when a poor priest suddenly acquired immense wealth after discovering mysterious documents. Templar symbols appear carved into nearby stones. Old maps hint at hidden chambers beneath the surrounding hills. Coincidence, or the echo of a much older secret? Across Europe, legends persist of sealed caves, forgotten monasteries, and underground vaults linked to the Order. Places deliberately chosen not for accessibility, but for permanence. The kind of hiding places meant to outlast empires. The most unsettling theory suggests the treasure was never meant to be recovered quickly. It was hidden for a future generation, one that would understand its true value. Because perhaps the Templars' greatest treasure was not gold at all, but something far more dangerous to those in power. When an order is destroyed, its words can be silenced. Its symbols cannot. Long after the Knights Templar were officially erased, their markings continue to appear, carved into stone, hidden in architecture, woven into manuscripts. Red crosses in unexpected places. Geometric patterns repeated with unnatural precision. Churches built on alignments that seem to defy coincidence. To some, these were merely remnants of a forgotten order. To others, they were instructions. The Templars understood that treasure left behind clues. Instead of maps, they used symbols. Instead of written directions, they relied on geometry, orientation, and sacred ratios. Knowledge that could be passed down silently, from initiate to initiate, without ever being spoken aloud. Legends speak of guardian lineages, families entrusted with pieces of the secret. Not knights in armor, but masons, architects, and scholars. Men who rebuilt Europe stone by stone, embedding memory into walls and cathedrals. Some claim these lineages later influenced emerging brotherhoods, preserving fragments of Templar tradition under new names. Whether or not these groups directly descended from the Order remains debated. What is undeniable is the persistence of Templar symbolism long after their supposed end. It suggests continuity, not extinction. And then there is the silence. Under torture, facing execution, not one high-ranking Templar revealed the location of the treasure. Not a single confession led to gold. Men burned at the stake carried the secret to their graves. Such unity is rare. Such discipline, almost impossible. Which leads to a final and chilling possibility. The treasure was never meant to be spoken of. It was protected not by walls or weapons, but by a vow stronger than fear. And that vow may still be holding. More than 7 centuries have passed since the fall of the Knights Templar. Kings have risen and fallen. Empires have turned to dust. Yet the question remains unanswered. Where did the treasure go? Historians continue to argue, dividing the mystery into facts and fantasies. Official records insist the Templars possessed little wealth of their own. But records are written by victors, and the victors that night found empty vaults, not answers. The silence is the strongest evidence of all. If there was nothing to hide, why erase documents? If there was no treasure, why prepare ships? If the order was powerless, why destroy it so completely? Perhaps the greatest mistake is assuming the treasure was meant to be found. Gold can be stolen. Land can be seized. But knowledge, networks, and influence are far harder to erase. The Templars understood this better than any order of their time. Their wealth may not lie in a single hidden vault, waiting to be uncovered by chance. It may be scattered across history, embedded in institutions, traditions, and systems that shaped the modern world. A fortune transformed, not lost. Or perhaps the treasure still lies in darkness, untouched, waiting for a moment that never came. Because if the Knights Templar taught us anything, it is this: true power does not vanish. It simply changes form. And until the final piece of the puzzle is revealed, the fate of the Templars' treasure remains one of history's greatest and most carefully guarded mysteries.